This video is made possible by our loyal Patreon supporters. Visit patreon.com/Psychetruth.
Hi, this is Chandler Rose. Today I want to show you a short routine for low back pain. We'll be doing some helpful stretches and some self-massage. You don't need any props or equipment for this routine, just a comfortable place to stretch. And later on in this video, I'm going to show you a percussive massage tool, the Thumper Mini Pro, which has been really helpful for me. So we'll get to that later on. And I'll show you how a percussive tool like this can help you relieve your low back pain at home. So as we get started here, I want you to have your feet just under your hips, like railroad tracks, getting set up in a really nice, comfortable position. You can just sway a little bit back and forth, feeling where your low back pain may be located. Maybe you're feeling it in your lower lumbar, maybe you're feeling some really tender places in your hips, or maybe you're starting to identify that this might be more leg and hamstring related, or your quads. So just rock for about 10 seconds here, back and forth, kind of rolling out the hips. You're making a little figure 8 with your hips. And then after a few seconds of feeling warm, ground into your feet. And you can bend your knees a bit, keeping your torso long. And you're really going to start to feel, if you have a tight low back and your hips are tight, you're going to feel pressure here in the sacrum, in the attachments around the sacrum. Now we're identifying the areas that contribute to low back pain or can contribute to any sort of sciatic nerve pain. So now we've loosened up the hips a little bit. We're focused on the area of concern. And I just want you to slowly bend your knees back up, not all the way straight, and bring your hands down just over your knees here. And you can sit back if that feels good. You can even lean on your knees a bit. And depending on your flexibility and strength, you can continue to move through these stretches. When I stretch, I don't want to lock my knees. I'm careful of my joints. So just be aware that if you're watching me do this, you can take a few moments just to get an idea of where I'm going. So I'm slowly sinking my torso down and opening my knees up. And after about 3 good opening stretches here, if you can, place your hands down on your mat. Let the weight of your head drop. And then I want you to identify if you have one leg that's a little tighter than the other. I really like moving stretches when it comes to pain, because then you can kind of create a stretch that works for your body. You can bring one heel up if that feels good and set it back down, and the other heel up and set it back down. If you're here and you're bending down and maybe you don't have the flexibility yet to touch the floor, that's okay. You can even stay here and use the weight into your knees and focus ahead, and that will give you a little more balance. You can also use a chair or an ottoman or a table right here, and just go ahead and use that as leverage to sink down. And I'm just moving in between this idea of stretching out my hamstrings, feeling the low back and the relationship here, and finding the places where it feels sticky and painful. You can even bring your feet in a little bit if that feels a little better. And if you're feeling kind of extra flexible, you can come up on your toes and set them back down. And you're really going to feel that in the tops of your knees. Stretching for pain is about warming up elongating the muscles, but it's also about your relationship with what your mind is feeling and what's actually present in the muscles. So with referral, you may feel a deep pain in the glutes, but it could be coming from lower down near the knee. So even just staying here on your fingertips, maybe you're not super flexible to go all the way down, but you can do one hand, bring your heel up and twist. This doesn't have to be any real strong stretch, just enough to feel the areas involved. Make sure you're breathing slow, deep breaths, and as you come up, roll up with your knees bent, one vertebrae at a time, all the way up, letting your gaze come up last. And here, just go back and forth between both feet. You might be feeling something a little different now. Maybe your pain has moved, maybe it's decreased, hopefully. So from this position, I'm now feeling that my quads are engaged from some of that bending forward. From this position with your feet in railroad tracks, comfortable position, you want your knees just slightly bent and soft. Take your left side out, and you're gonna step out, putting your heel down towards the floor, depending on your flexibility. Now you're gonna feel the stretch here, and you're gonna feel it in the opposite leg. The opposite foot, just make sure that it's pretty straight, perpendicular to the forward wall. And I'm feeling this on the inside of my leg as well, in the adductors, which also have a lot to do with low back pain. So I'm gonna do that same thing on the other side. So stepping out, and then pushing out. So I'm feeling the stretch a little in the glutes on the side facing the back wall, and then inside on the internal rotators as well as the adductors, contributing to any sort of pulling in the low back. And find a comfortable place to stretch that seems to be helping with any tension you're holding. Make this your own. And step back into your yoga mat. You can roll your hips a couple times, feeling some new spaces. Maybe your knees are feeling more awake. Let's do this little hip stretch from the front, and I'll turn so you can see the position of the feet. Again, you're welcome to make this your own. If anything is uncomfortable, you can move your feet a little forward or back. So from this position, I'm going to step out with my heel out and push the hip out. And then I'm feeling stretch down through the adductors as well. And if you want a little more twist in the inside of this leg, you can bring your gaze up and breathe. Okay, so the right side, step out, letting your heel go towards that back diagonal. And you can stay right here if that feels good, or go ahead and turn your hip out. And then you're feeling a stretch within the inside of the adductors, and you can go ahead and turn your gaze up towards the ceiling if that's good, or towards the back wall. So I'm getting a stretch in the adductors, which help to close any closing motion of the legs. This will also help relieve tension in the connections that have to do with the low back. It's all related. Before we transition to some of the floor movement, I want you to locate your quadratus lumborum, and I'll show you that. So go ahead and start with your right side. Usually if you're right-handed, your QL will be tighter than your left, depending on which side is dominant. And to locate your QL, you're going to trace down and feel your last rib. It's also the place where if you bend to one side, you're going to get a crease in the hip. And that's right where you want your hand, on that crease. And then with your thumb, you're going to take your thumb and push in towards the spine. So you're going directly in. You're not going on top and pushing in, you're going into the side. And this little muscle is a stabilizer muscle in the low back. So if you're sitting or standing a lot, oftentimes this muscle is just really cinched and tight. So take your thumbs and you're going to feel these little tight fibers. You'll feel the fibers move as you push in. And you can use this little notch between the last rib and the top of the sacrum, which is about here. And there's about 2 inches of space, depending on your length and flexibility. This space will open as you become more open. So half moon posture is also really good. Any side bending or stretching will help open this up. And this is something you can do while standing in line, anytime you're waiting, or if you're sitting, a sitting posture with your knees bent comfortably, you can get to this. So on the left side, same thing. So if I were to bend to the right side, it will create that crease. So the left side, same thing, coming over, finding the crease, taking my thumb and pushing in towards the spine, opening up the QL or quadratus lumborum, a stabilizer muscle common in low back injury or pain. And make sure when you're pushing in and doing self-massage that you're breathing slowly, carefully as these muscles begin to loosen. So from this position, let's transition down to the floor and get comfortable. So you want your feet in a comfortable position. You can always lean your knees in together as you're going down if you need more stability for your low back. So go as slow as you need to. If you have some pain going on, just listen to your body. Stop whenever necessary. I like to just inch my hips forward as I roll down. You can use your elbows to get all the way down onto your back. Letting your head rest last. So from this position, just notice the pressure on your sacrum or the little plate that you're laying on that's touching your mat or the floor. And just take your knees and you're actually self-massaging your sacrum with the weight of your own legs, using your knees as a sense of direction or force that can take you around these little notches, almost like you're working on the face of a clock and just coming all the way in. If there's ever a spot that feels extra tight, like for me it's sort of the corner of this hip, I can feel that pressure about here. So if you're feeling that at home, you can just stay in that spot for a moment and use your own internal structures to massage through in the sacral area to warm up and loosen the low back. Then carefully let your feet come back to the floor. So in a nice, relaxed rest position, you can bring your knees together for a moment. And then let one of your legs be long all the way down to the mat or floor. And you can let your foot roll out if you need to. You can let that knee and hip be soft. And then with your hands, go ahead and take your fingers together over your knee. And squeeze that knee, avoiding the rib cage down towards the shoulder. And this is creating a squeeze in the front of the hip, It's also stretching the glutes. And you'll feel a little heat in the front of the hip here as you squeeze down towards the shoulder. Hold this for a few seconds. And it could be here, it could be here, wherever you're comfortable. Don't feel like you have to force yourself into a flexible position. This is about relieving pain, not about creating too much intensity or deep stretching. And then breathe as you let this foot come all the way down to meet the other. And bring the other knee up into that rest position. Take your hands above this knee, guiding it around the rib cage, bringing it to the opposite shoulder. Breathe here as you squeeze, resetting the front of the hip socket. You might feel a little popping, some warmth in the front here. That's great. You're definitely using your body to self-massage this major joint. And as long as you want, you can hold this and let it go. You're welcoming new circulation here in the front of the hips, creating your own self-healing. And then after stretching both sides, bring your knees up, using your abs if you need to, and then squeezing your knees in towards the chest. You can bring your chin down. If you're in this position, it's a little hard on your neck, but you may start in this position. From this position, just notice your spine and how you can make it longer by bringing your chin down to your chest. This is also great thyroid compression, awesome for resetting your metabolism and squeezing the thyroid. Breathing here. One more slow breath. If you want your feet close together but not crossed, that creates a different stretch. And then carefully releasing back down, either into this lovely rest position with the knees together, or if you want to take a moment here in this restful pose, you're welcome to do so. So from this nice rest position, you can just take a few breaths here. I'm going to reach up and get my percussive massage tool so I can show you how to integrate that in if you decide to check it out. So first, let's get into our twist, and then I will show you another way to stretch a little deeper. So with one leg down and the other foot planted, go ahead and drop that top knee down towards the floor. So from this position, take your opposite hand, and I just want you to identify your sacrum. That's this flat bone that you've been laying on that we were massaging earlier. And you can take your fingers and start to identify where your tension may be coming from. And then as you work down this area, you'll start to run into the dense tissue of the IT bands, of the TFL, this fascial tissue that has a lot of, its job is to strengthen the leg, but it's also pulling. So when I start to work with my percussive tool, I'm essentially massaging this fascia to help open, which will help with any sort of low back pain that you might have. So at any point, if you need to come out of this stretch and switch to the other side, feel free to do so. Or if you're just enjoying listening and stretching in this position, you're welcome to stay there as well. So now I will integrate the Thumper Mini Pro and show you how to do that. There's a variety of different settings. You can add more pulse or percussion if you'd like. You can add a stronger sense of deportment. So essentially I'm going to go down like this, massaging here into the sacrum and hip as well. So here we go. Touching in on the sacral points, also the glutes, the bulky part of the back of our leg, and also the TFL or fascial areas that can definitely play a part in low back tension. You can vary if you want to use one hand or if you want to integrate the other as well. Adding a massage tool can really save your hands. Also can save you some money because maybe you can't get a massage as often as you'd like. So integrating a self-care practice is a really great way to keep your body open and healthy at home. And a couple higher settings if you like more deep tissue type work. You can feel it a little deeper into the hip joint. As far as sciatic diagnosis or pain is concerned, the idea is that this pain comes from the muscle squeezing around the nerve. So if you have a massage tool, or if you're just working on your own, massaging yourself at home and doing stretching, the goal is to open up the muscles enough where they're not pinching the nerve, causing you this message over and over again that something is wrong in the hip and the joint. So this is working on a muscle, a soft tissue level. It's also really helping with giving more flexibility in the joint itself, in the iliosacral joint, which is where the sciatic nerve is closest to. And I can bring it all the way down to my knee. If you have a tool like this at home, go ahead and bring your foot down to the floor, and you can work on your quads here. Low back pain from years of doing massage really has a connection to the status of the legs. If your legs are tight and your back is tight, the place in between those areas will complain. So stretching, massaging your legs will allow your low back to have a little more space. So wherever you are, maybe you're still stretching the right side. Let's switch to the other so you can come back to this restful place. You're going to bring this leg down and this leg will come across. You might feel a little popping action in the low back. That's great. We're making more spaces, creating more mobility, more malleability in the joint. All right, so from this position, you can go ahead and let that opposite arm be long if you'd like. You want this stretch to feel opening in the glutes, maybe a little compression in the front of the hip on this side. You can practice where you want to put your hand for pressure, and also identify the sacrum again. And one more time, I'm going to loosen with my Mini Pro. Coming back up towards the glutes. And you'll get creative with whatever your dominant hand is. I like to use both hands, so one hand isn't working harder than the other. Just coming across the glutes, opening up the TFL, the IT band, which really helps with low back pain, any sort of sciatic discomfort, down into the knee, and then a little more into this quad, just evening things out. Working on the body holistically, both sides will benefit the whole, that your whole being is affected. Adductors, the inside of the leg, also very helpful. Even the sound of this is very relaxing. So maybe you've just been stretching, so go ahead and take your legs, knees together, a little more self-massage, rotating around that clock on the sacrum, opening things up. One last squeeze. So go ahead and roll onto your side. We're going to start to get up. Now that the low back is nice and loose, the legs feel connected. Find a comfortable seat. Make sure you roll up carefully, as slowly as you need to, coming back. Thank you so much for taking some time today to devote to yourself and your own self-care. So important when addressing pain to just take a little time every day. Do some stretching, some self-massage, some breathing techniques. It all goes such a long way. A big thank you to the Thumper. We really love this tool, and we have a link in the description below if you'd like to learn more about it. Thank you so much.
Many of our subscribers don't see our videos. Make sure that you click the notification bell. And if you haven't already, follow us on social media for tips, tutorials, giveaways, and daily inspiration.
Introducing Yoga Plus, offering a free series every month with over 300 different videos. Take control of your health. Work out anytime, anywhere. Yoga Plus. Download now for free.